And good day, everybody. This is E. Marcel Portune. Welcome to another edition of the Sports Inquirer Show. It's been a long time since we've done a show, about a week or two, which is a long time since we've been on a good roll over the summer. We're recording this on August 8th, 2019. We're very excited to have you on today's show and listening to everything that we are doing. I'll get into details of what we've been up to over the past few weeks that's led to the delay of recording the show. But on this broadcast, we'll keep it pretty Southeast / Atlanta centric today. We're going to break down Atlanta United and their activities over the past few weeks, and it'll delve into what I've been doing as far as media goes. But we'll talk about their win in the U.S. Open Cup semifinals and advancing to the finals and the victory over Orlando City. We'll next go into the technical state of Georgia State Athletics, which is our college sports dedicated portion of the show. And all of the local football programs have opened up from Georgia State, Tech, University of Georgia, Kennesaw State, and all the other programs as well. So we'll talk about that as well. And in the miscellaneous department, we'll touch on the NFL and the opening of training camps and everything that has taken place within the past few weeks. But as always, if you want to follow everything that we're doing, head to the mothership to sportsinquirer.net. I highly recommend that you head to the site for several reasons. One, we have all of the Atlanta United content that you will ever need, from pressers with Frank de Boer, our exclusive interview. I'm rusty. I haven't done a show in a few weeks, so I can't even say my words right. The exclusive interview that we were able to do with Miles Robinson, the star defender for the team. We also have pressers from Brad Guzan and Jeff Lorenowitz and some other players. But I highly recommend that you check the site out for that. We also were able to head to Georgia State football's media day, or their opening, the presser before the opening practice. So we're able to talk to the head coach, Shawn Elliott, Dan Ellington, the quarterback, and some other players as well. So make sure you head to the site, do your searches, and find a way to follow us on there as far as the site itself and seeing all of our content. Speaking of following, go to our social media platforms, Twitter and Instagram, under Sports Inquirer, all one word. You go to Facebook under The Sports Inquirer and Sports Inquirer. We have 2 pages on there. And finally, if you want to get our archived shows, our audio shows from the Sports Inquirer Show to Verbal Submission, we're going to record a new episode tomorrow discussing New Japan's G1 Climax Tournament and WWE activities in AEW and mixed martial arts as well. So we have our Verbal Submission podcast. We're going to record a show tomorrow, and so we're very excited about that. But if you want to get all of our archives from that, such as Sports Choir Show, which you're listening to now, to Backdoor Cut, which is our basketball show, all those shows, past, present, and for the future, head to the YouTube, SoundCloud, and iTunes and subscribe to Sports Inquirer, The Sports Inquirer. Just look us up. You can do that, and we greatly appreciate that. We're going to take our first break of the show, and when we come back, we're going to break down Atlanta United and the rest of the world of Major League Soccer at Offside Trap here on the Sports Inquirer Show. All right, welcome back to the Sports Inquirer Show. E. Marcel Portute here speaking with you today. Let's start with the Offside Trap and Atlanta United's recent activities. They were able to advance the U.S. Open Cup final with a 2-0 win on the road over Orlando City on August 6th. The Atlanta is now in its first U.S. Open Cup final in franchise history. And seeing how the franchise is only 3 years old, a very solid accomplishment. Eric Remedi and Emerson Hyndman scored the goals in the contest. Remedi, this is his first goal of the 2019 season in all campaigns. And Hyndman, who was a mid-season acquisition from England, he was able to score his first goal with Atlanta United in general. Brad Guzan made 2 saves, and Atlanta is now on a shutout streak of 199 minutes in U.S. Open Cup action. We were able to get the audio from Atlanta United Communications. Thank you always to the crew over there of manager Frank de Boer and his thoughts on the victory itself. And after that, we'll break down the semantics of Josef Martinez's unavailability in the contest. But first, let's hear from Frank de Boer on the victory itself.
Could have punished them more than 1-0. Of course, they had one very good chance, that But I think overall the first half was for us, and the second half they put a lot of energy in. I think also when we were, of course, it's very tiring. After 3 days you play again in a match in this heat. And I have to give a very big compliment. They fought like lions. They defended, like lions, and also tried to attack. We had the opportunities, and finally we had a relieving goal, to score the 2-0, and then it was over. But I think it was a good performance. They're going to press, and try to do everything. Put 2 fast guys in with Muller, especially, and. But I think we still did manage to do a good job, and very proud of the team. Who was involved today, played really well and concentrated, and this is what I want to see.
All right, that was manager Frank de Boer talking about the win itself. Now, it would do without the services of perennial MLS All-Star and arguably MVP of the league and of the team itself, and Josef Martinez. He picked up an injury in training before the matchup. And Atlanta's been very active in their schedule between MLS play and now the Open Cup. They had a match on August 3rd, a home victory over the Los Angeles Galaxy, and then had a turnaround a few days later and play on Tuesday, August 6th in Orlando. In between then, Martinez picked up a leg injury. We'll get more information about that tomorrow when we head out to practice. And as always, head to sportsinquirer.net for those pressers with manager Frank de Boer at least, and he'll elaborate more on Martinez's availability in the future. But in the contest itself against Orlando, we saw Justin Meran really play more up front with Brandon Vasquez, him dealing with injuries. And that's where you saw Hyndman play up front and Meran, who was returning to Orlando for the first time this year after the midseason trade from Orlando. And he did not have the best tenure with Orlando City, and there's not very good feelings on both sides of that. So Meran played very well, was able to push forward, helping to lead to those goals. And here's Frank de Boer talking about playing without Josef Martinez in the scenario that Atlanta was in.
To react, of course, quickly, and so I didn't have to think very long about it, and so for me it was clear that we put Barco and PT up front, and then play the midfield that we did against Houston, I think. Yeah, with Emerson, Eric, and Nagby. So for me it was clear.
What is?
We don't know, it's we look from day to day, and probably New York is too fast, but then we have to look, how he's recovering.
Okay.
And that New York matchup is NYCFC that they're going to face on Sunday, August 11th. So it looks like Josef Martinez may not be available for that matchup. As I said, we'll get more confirmation of that when we get to practice tomorrow. But itself, the matchup, you heard it, had Pity Martinez, Ezekiel, Barco on the field at the same time. We saw that in the Los Angeles Galaxy win, having those two guys up front. And that was maybe Atlanta's most complete performance in MLS play. And this is probably the circumstances considered the most complete performance in U.S. Open Cup play so far this year in the Orlando victory. Having those two guys up front, especially their ability to hold the ball and contain the ball and draw fouls as well. Barco does a very good job of that. Pity as well, of holding the ball in midfield just outside the penalty area. And when you do that, you're able to align yourself very well. You're able to get organized and draw some free kick opportunities, and that puts more pressure on the defense. Now, Barco was substituted out of the match early in the second half for Andrew Carlton. Very confused by that. I want to get some information on that as well from de Boer and why he made that sub. I did think that Barco was playing okay. It's really hard when you're watching these matchups on TV, or in this case on the internet on ESPN Plus. You can see more of the activity when you're at the game and see if someone's fatigued, or you see bad passes here and there, but you get the aerial view of the entire field and if someone is struggling. I didn't think that Barco was playing necessarily bad, but you got to realize as well, this is a condensed schedule. Barco is recovering from injury still. So Carlton, who has had his ups and downs of playing on the first team, we've seen him play in LA United too, but then there was a situation where they were traveling internationally. I believe it was to Toronto, or Montreal. I forgot which game it was. But he left his passport at home and couldn't travel with the team. He was disciplined internally for that. So there's been an up and down year for Carlton, but he was able to get on the field for the match. And obviously Atlanta was able to close out the 2-0 lead in the second half. So Carlton did some okay things there. But as I said, playing with Martinez up front, not without Josef Martinez, having Pity Martinez and Barco in the lineup together allows you to do a lot more offensively. And Justin Meran benefited from that as well. As I said, he was coming back to Orlando City after being traded out of there in the middle of the season of this year. So let's hear from Meran, his thoughts on the victory and what it meant to him to get the win.
What was maybe coming my way, but I knew it was that what was the task at hand, and we came out with a win, and I felt like we dominated. I think they had one chance with Dwyer early on, but we had a lot of chances tonight, and I think we outran them, we outplayed them. I'm just happy to be on this side with this group, and they helped me pick me up, and they knew it was going to be difficult every time I got the ball being booed and warm-ups, but I showed tonight that I can block that out and play my game. This was a pressure I wanted to see, can I handle? This is a moment for me, like, they don't know the whole truth. There'll be moments where they realize from my side what I've been going through or what I went through when I was here, and I've kept quiet. But, tonight was about my teammates and how can I help. And I ran, and I kept going by them and making plays, and it could have been 2-3 up at halftime. So I'm just proud of the guys. You just gotta be, we're missing our star, our goal scorer, and I put it upon myself to make more runs and to create more chances, and I think a lot of us put that on ourselves and the attacking players, and you saw we created some really good chances, and we could have been up quite a few goals at halftime.
Sounds like Meran was pushing for a book deal, but we'll get to that. We'll get to it now. Just obviously, when your players, he says that there's a lot more to it than that. I'm not a crack researcher or an insider. I mean, I know a lot that goes on because we're there a lot as far as going to practices and games and all of that. But whenever that comes out, eventually we'll see what it is. I don't know if there's anything malicious or bad. But point is, though, is that he did not have a good tenure in Orlando City, whether it was due to him or the organization. Fans or supporters don't really look at that. They just see a player that was not happy there and leaves the team, goes to the rival, which is Atlanta. So he's going to get booed. That's expected. That's understood. But, yeah, he played really well, though, in the matchup, and they really needed him to keep that offensive pressure on and to be a good two-way player for the team. And as he mentioned, not having Josef Martinez, arguably not only the MVP of the team, but maybe of the league, without him in the contest and playing on the road against a very game Orlando City squad was a big testament to the team effort that Frank de Boer has been preaching throughout this season. So let's hear from de Boer again on getting a team victory on the road.
It was, because Josef out, other players have to step up. I think it was also a team performance, today. So this, for a coach, these are great games, to see, hey, there was the chemistry between the players, that they were communicating, they were fighting, they were motivating each other. This is what you want to see. I said it, I think, 5 days before, I think, this game, or 4 games after the match against Galaxy. I said, we are now with this team, with this roster, and you have to be ready, because in one day it can change. The whole thing can change, somebody's get injury or suspended or something, and then you have to step in. So everybody has to be ready, and unfortunately, it already happened quite quick that suddenly, somebody has to step in. And but it's like this in a tough season. You don't gonna play with 12, 13 players. No, probably you need 17, 18 players, and when we have a good depth in our roster, they make the difference if you're going to be champions or on top of end of the season.
And now is Manager Frank de Boer talking about the team effort. And while he was talking about that, I was thinking about this year's makeup of Atlanta United as compared to previous seasons, the first 2 years under Tata Martino. Now, those teams had transactions and players moving on and trades happened and things like that. But this may be the most activity I can remember for the team, at least in season, within the transfer windows. And I'm not talking about the Miguel Almiron move to Newcastle. That was in the offseason. Well, technically, I guess it was during the season because it was the very start of CONCACAF Champions League. But look at the players that they've acquired and had to use in a major way this year in midseason. Talk about Justin Meran. He came on in the middle of the season. Emerson Hyndman, he came on as well. And you look at Mo Adams, he actually was able to – he's played in a few contests. He's been on the roster. So you see this mid-season activity. You're really using the transfer windows to bring in depth, which has been needed because you have not gotten a full season out of Martinez, Josef Martinez, not out of Barco. Tito Villalba, he's found his way back on the bench and has made some substitute appearances. He hasn't been played an entire year. Outside of – and then this guy's been suspended for various reasons, from Lorenowitz to Gonzalez Perez with yellow card accumulation. Really, the main guys, as far as your starters, consistent, and then even Nagby, he was out a little bit beginning of the year. He was trying to work his way back into form as far as conditioning and things along those lines. And you had the different competitions. That's what I think the international calendar, where guys like Josef Martinez, he was representing Venezuela at Copa America, and Barco was with the Argentina in the FIFA World Cup for the, I think, U20 or U23, one of them. But he was unavailable for a portion of the year. So outside of like Brad Guzan and Miles Robinson, every other player has been, and Pogba as well. I think Pogba technically he was in the offseason, but he's played a big role on the team as a defender. So you look at all of these moves and all these moving parts trying to come together. Very much credit goes to the coaching staff and the players for adjusting to that. So when you look at a matchup against Orlando, who is a middling MLS team right now, so they're middle of the pack, but still going on the road, winning that contest on a short week was very impressive performance for Atlanta. And I'm mentioning also with the forward aggression of the players, you see Miles Robinson being very forward with the headers on corner kicks and free kicks, especially the corners. And he had several opportunities to get a goal. But De Boer, he talked about that as well, just seeing these scoring chances develop on set pieces and outside of just Josef Martinez scoring all the goals for the team, trying to create different opportunities for players.
You know, he's involved in corners, so when he's close to it, he has a good height. He can also have a decent header. So when the ball is struck well, you know, like the first corner, I thought he could do more with it, you know. And Miles had like 2-3 good headers. So there was an opportunity to score in the beginning already.
Was that something I saw on film, the ability to exploit on corners, particularly Miles, because he had 3 in a row, I think?
Yeah, but, you know, of course, we analyze it very well and where we think, you know, is the most dangerous spot to place the ball, and so we did. And we know that Miles, you know, is a good jumper. Still, I think with his technique, with offensive heading, he can still improve. But, he's very strong, of course.
And that was Manager Frank de Boer discussing Miles Robinson and his ability to find open shots with his head during set pieces, particularly on corners. So for Atlanta itself, now they're going to face Minnesota United, which defeated Portland 2-1 on August 7th, in the U.S. Open Cup final on August 27th. So the schedule gets more condensed because you have the Campeones Cup competition on August 14th, next Wednesday, and then that next week, 2 weeks from now, or 2 weeks from then, you have the 27th as far as the matchup against Minnesota. So the schedule gets more condensed, but they're facing trophy. They can win 2 trophies within a 3-week span. So that's very exciting for Atlanta United and everything that they have going on there. And I said their next home match or next match in general, is going to be at home against NYCFC on August 11th at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. We will be there for full coverage, so make sure you continue to check out the site and find out everything that we are doing there in relation to it. We're going to take our next break, and when we come back, we're going to get into the open of college football camps throughout the state of Georgia here on the Sports Inquirer Show. All right, and welcome back to Sports Inquirer Show. Emar Soportu here speaking with you. Let's go to the technical state of Georgia State athletics. We'll focus on football with the start of training camps taking place within the past, I think, 7 to 10 days. We're able to go to the Georgia State one, the opening of that, on August 1st. What's August 2nd? Let's see. Yeah, it was August 1st, this time a week ago, as Georgia State looks to rebound from its disappointing 2-10 campaign last year, 1-7 in Sun Belt play, or in 2018, I should say. And here is head coach Shawn Elliott introducing his opening statements, or making his opening statements to the intro of the upcoming season. Or is it making the intro to the statement of the opening of the season? You get what I'm saying. But let's hear from Coach Elliott and his thoughts on the opening of their 2019 campaign for the upcoming season.
What you're going to see about our new offense is a lot of flashy. We're going to throw the ball downfield a lot of RPOs, a lot of package plays. We're going to be fast, very, very fast, I think, this year. Coach Glenn is a lot.
Actually, that is not Coach Elliott. That is Dan Ellington, the quarterback. We'll hear from Dan a little bit later. But let's hear from Coach Elliott and his thoughts opening up the campaign for 2019.
At this point is we have opportunities to be successful if we go out and we treat the next month business-like and go out there with an attitude and an effort and an intensity that will really kind of dictate our image and our reputation over the course of a season. We've got a lot of answers that need to be found here in the next few weeks, and I think it's going to be a great opportunity for both young and old to go out there and experience a tough, physical preseason camp and get us kind of heading in the right direction as a football team. When you come off a season kind of like we did a year ago, there's a lot of bad taste, there's a lot of bad feelings in your mouth and wherever it may be, but you're just not real happy, and the off season's not as good, and you have a little chip on your shoulder because you know that there's so many things we could have done better. We could have put ourselves in a better position this way or another way, and we just really use that off season to reflect and kind of see what direction and what focus do we really need to have going into this fall. And without a doubt, if you look at us from a year ago, our defense has to be a step up. There has to be a lot of changes that have to be made in that, and then of course keep developing our offensive football team, and then keep building upon what I thought was a solid special teams from a year ago. But we are thrilled to be here today, August 1st, heading into this season.
And that was head coach Shawn Elliott on the opening of camp. And we're going to play another clip from Coach Elliott on just the anticipation of opening camp.
Coach, this is what you live for, to tell you the truth. To think that you only get really 12 games to go out there and play, and then you've got to go recruit. You get 15 days of spring practice. You can't really work with them in the summer. That's hard for a coach that really lives to go out there and compete and work and be around his football team. So, I said it earlier, we work continuously year-round, but the fact that we get to all go out there, practice together, meet together, be around one another. The game of football is about camaraderie, it's about family, it's about relationships. There's not a whole lot of individualism in it. That's the exciting part. That's truly what makes a coach is having that opportunity to have, I won't call them my guys, but our guys, to all be here together, and then try to take that football team, mold it and grow it into something that's going to become successful. That's what really fuels me.
And that was Coach Elliott talking about the opening of the season, or opening a training camp for the upcoming season. Now, the nuts and bolts of it, and we'll break down the specific positions and roster battles that will be taking place throughout camp. But the overarching themes that you can start off with is that they do return 18 of 22 starters. And a lot of those players were underclassmen, freshmen, and sophomores. And now you're looking at a good amount of juniors and seniors. And that also includes the return of Dan Ellington, who we played his clip earlier. We'll get to that clip in a second. But he is one of the leading guys as well. But let's hear from Coach Elliott on having a large amount of veterans on this team for 2019.
I am feeling fairly confident, to be honest with you. I mean, we go through an off season, and an off season is to develop leadership, is to develop, whatever your program wants to be about. And when I had my in the spring meetings with each one of our players, I do it every single year. I ask them about who are our leaders on our football team. And you can get a sense of how your team is going to be and how they're going to respond, how they're going to react to certain situations, because 2 years ago I would have had 20 different answers about who our leaders were. And in our spring meetings, I had about 5 answers. And so everyone kind of knows who those guys are. And there's some guys that have been here for a while, some guys that are relatively new, but there was a real distinct picture of who our leaders were and who they're going to be. And that is a positive sign. You're not going into each and every week looking for some guy to step up. Everyone has the sense of these are our men, and these are the guys that are going to lead us. And we have those guys marked, and they've done a good job this summer as well.
Okay, and one of those guys will be Dan Ellington. Let's kind of get to Dan. He is a senior returning starting quarterback for the team. He was a junior college transfer into the program last year, and it ended up leading the Panthers in passing and rushing yards. He actually had 2,119 passing yards and 625 yards on the ground for 17 touchdowns. So he led the team in those categories and was an all Sun Belt Conference selection. So he had a very solid junior campaign. And I was able to ask him coming into this year what the expectations are now that he is a veteran of the team and has gained experience as far as leading the team on and off the field.
What you're going to see about our new offense is a lot of flashy. We're going to throw the ball downfield a lot of RPOs, a lot of package plays. We're going to be fast, very, very fast, I think, this year. Coach Glenn brings a lot to the table. I'm happy that he's here, happy that he's coaching us, happy he's my offense coordinator, happy he's my quarterback's coach. I'm blessed to have him, and I'm glad Coach Elliott hired him. I remember the very first time I saw him, we had winter workouts. He was getting ready to interview for the job. He came outside, and I introduced myself to him. And I think from right then we clicked. When he got the job, he DM'd me on Twitter. I think like an hour after he got the job, he DM'd me on Twitter and told me he decided to work with me, and I told him I decided to work with him. As soon as I found out he got the job, I went on YouTube and found out about his offense. I watched North Carolina versus Western Carolina, so I learned the offense a little bit quicker. He's a really good coach. I think our bond is really tight. I'm really glad the 15 practices we got in the spring. I think that even helped us, and our trust is really getting there. It's not all the way there yet, but I think at the end of fall camp it'll be there.
And here's Ellington discussing further his comfort level with the team in his second year with the program.
Last year when I got here, I was a new guy on campus. I was a new face on campus, so I had to get everybody respect. And I thought I did that last year. Now that, I've been with Coach Elliott and his staff for a whole year, I think that I got everybody respect, and and I got their respect. They're really good coaches. My teammates are really good teammates to me. I'm a good teammate to them. They're my brothers, and I tell them that every day I love them. And I'm just excited to be here and just excited to do it. Excited for the season. A lot. That progressed a lot. I think our running back room is going to be really good for the next couple of years. So I think we got like 2 or 3 sophomores back there. We got a redshirt freshman. I think the running back room is going to be really, really good for the next couple of years here at Georgia State. Also with the receiver room, I think we're going to have about 2 or 3 sophomores starting for us this year at the receiver spot, and they're really good. I know I can throw 50-50 balls for them. They can come down and make the plays. And we got like two to three to four that can make the plays after the catch. So we got one from Memphis that's going to be really good for us. I'm happy that we got him. He's gonna be a very, very good fit for our offense this year, especially what Coach Glenn likes to do. So I'm very, very happy about the guy we got from Memphis. I think he's really gonna help us offensively.
Yeah, and that was Dan Ellington talking about his running back group and all those guys that he has on the team. And let's hear from Elliott as well, talking about Dan Ellington having that veteran experience on the team in the quarterback position.
Yeah, it's almost every single day I see Dan, there's something new and exciting about him. I thought he did a quite good job a year ago. He limited his turnovers. He was able to utilize his legs in the running game. He didn't put the ball in jeopardy as far as in his throwing game. I think he's capable of doing both. I think he's a strong leader. I think I said down at media days there in New Orleans that good football teams have to have a good quarterback, and that good quarterback has to be a good leader. And I think Dan is that for us. I see him really more so developing this year under Brad Glenn in the type of offensive scheme that we'll run. It won't be drastically different than what we've done in the past, but there's some new things to let Dan kind of take advantage of the game himself. Let him kind of dictate some of the things that we didn't let him do a year ago. But really just thrilled to death to have him here. I mean, when you watch a guy like him work, you see a smile on his face, you see a determination on his face, you see the intensity that you want in your quarterback. And like I said, every day I walk in and see his face, I start smiling.
Yep, so he's very optimistic, Coach Elliott, on his quarterback coming back for another season. He also returns the services of senior kicker Brandon Wright, who is one of the nation's top punters. He was third in FBS in both gross and net punting this past fall, and his 48.2 yards per kick set a Sun Belt record and was eighth best figure in FBS history. So a lot of attention goes to offense and defense, and understandably so. But special teams is a strength for a team that does have its struggles on the field. So I was able to ask Coach Elliott about having a weapon like Brandon Wright at kicker and what he helps the team do on the field.
Brandon, let's talk about his punting. I mean, Brandon could go out and lead the country in punting. If we let him just kick the football. And when I say kick the football, I mean just go out and bomb that thing. We rugby style sometimes to keep it out of returner's hands because when he does boom it, he outkicks our coverage. It's hard to go chase down a 65-yard punt and then have a 20-yard space in between the top returners. So we do some different things with him, but he gives us an opportunity. It's really gratifying to know that you can go out there and have a kickoff team where you know that thing's going through the end zone. It's something that really settles my stomach, to tell you the truth, knowing that he has the powerful leg to do that. Sometimes the place kicking is a little bit up in the air, but he's worked very, very hard on it this offseason. He's done a fine job this summer, really toning in that skill. And for someone to have the ability to do all three, that's a very, very specialist, if you can word it like that. So thrilled to have him. I think we're very solid in that area. I think we can do some other things to make us a little bit more efficient, whether it's returning the football and kickoffs or whatever it may be. But we're moving in the right direction in that position.
So that was Coach Elliott on the special teams unit led by Brandon Wright. And to conclude our thoughts on Georgia State football, let's hear from Coach Elliott entering his third year with the program. First year, he was a program, they were able to have a winning record and emerge with a victory in the Cure Bowl. And so that was the first bowl victory in history of the program. Second year was last year, 2-10 record. Did not reach expectations. So what are his thoughts now in the third year, trying to compete in a very competitive Sun Belt conference? We've seen teams like Appalachian State, Troy, Georgia Southern produce 8, 9, 10-win campaigns. Louisiana Lafayette as well, or University of Louisiana. They have been able to play very well and compete at a pretty high level. Where does Georgia State stand in that hierarchy of the Sun Belt? Coach Elliott addressed that question as well.
Continue to build this football program the way we have. sometimes you try to go and compete so quickly that you lose sight of what you're trying to do for the long run. I mean, we all, listen, I don't want to go out there. I want to win 10, 11. I want to win 12 games. I want to win the bowl game. I want to compete for the championships. But ultimately, I want this thing and this football program set up for success for long term. We're continuing to do the things that we need to do to put ourselves in position to go and compete with the App States and the Troys. It's called recruiting, and I think recruiting the high school level, I think developing guys that you can bring in here, have the opportunity to redshirt, gain experience through the course of their career, other than probably being a quick fix. Sometimes you have to have a quick fix, and you have to go the 2-year JC route with some positions, but we're trying to do it the correct way and in the right way. And I think if we continue to do that, ultimately, we're going to be right where we need to be to go and compete. You know, it's so funny. You know, just 2 years ago, we were sitting out here, and I believe it was Thanksgiving weekend, and we were playing Appalachian State, and we were both tied for first place in the conference. So, you know, it's not something that's going to take quite a bit of time to do, but it has to be done the right way.
As that's Coach Elliott talking about all the overarching themes of the opening of their camp. We'll be down there the next few weeks down for the opening of their season. They actually start the campaign of 2019 at University of Tennessee on August 31st. So we'll have plenty of thoughts. We'll talk to players and coaches as we lead up to that day. Georgia and Georgia Tech have also opened up their camps over the past week or so. Georgia comes in number 3 on most preseason polls. And we'll break down Georgia a lot as well as we go over the next weeks. But obviously returning your starting quarterback and from a 3-year starter now, in essence. And a lot of veterans left on both sides of the ball. But Georgia looks to have a very solid campaign and compete with Georgia and with Clemson in the national stage and with Alabama as well. You got to figure that Georgia will be a favorite in the SEC East and should have another double-digit win campaign. But we'll break all that stuff down throughout the next few weeks. And Georgia Tech also opened up their camp under new coach Jeff Collins. After the tenure of Paul Johnson ended, he took over the team earlier this calendar year. And a lot of anticipation for what he can do with the team, obviously transitioning from the triple option offense to some form of a spread. I have to head down there and see what they're going to be doing as far as that goes. But that's obviously the biggest question you have at Georgia Tech. And also I should have mentioned earlier on the show, we were able to speak with Coach Collins. He was at the Atlanta United matchup against the Los Angeles Galaxy. Talked a little bit of football, but more about the plans of Georgia Tech. They're going to play a few games at Mercedes-Benz Stadium over the next few years, so we addressed that. So that video of the presser is up on our site, so make sure you check that out. But yeah, Georgia Tech is making some major changes with their football program. First-year guy, they opened up at Clemson on the 29th, I believe. Yes, the 29th of August, the first game on the ACC network, which I do not know how to get yet. I got an email about it, about their announcement and their presser as far as how it's going to be as far as if it's digital or if it's on TV. My point is they open up the season at the defending national champion, so we'll have a lot of more thoughts on that as well. And we'll go to the miscellaneous department. We'll just jump right into it. Let me just make a note of when we're recording this. Okay, yep. So miscellaneous department, I'll just talk the NFL camps. It's a lot of football. They're opening up. I'm tired of hearing about the Cowboys. Here's the thing. They have 3 big contracts they have to get done by most 99% of the time. You don't do new contracts during the regular season. So they have 3 guys they got to sign. 2 guys on the last year of their current deal in receiver Amari Cooper and Dak Prescott, the quarterback. And then Ezekiel Elliott, the running back, has 2 years left on his deal. Here's what's going to happen. Oh, first of all, the thing about the Elliott, he's holding out. He's not at camp. He's in Cabo, Mexico, working out or doing whatever. He's not going to play in the preseason anyway. So even if he was in camp and was doing his full training activities, he wouldn't be playing in any of the games at all. So him missing training camp is not the biggest deal in the world for me. Now, he has shown a history of not being mature with off the field stuff. He was already suspended by the league earlier in his career for some conduct detrimental to the league and to the Cowboys. He had the incident. He was at a concert in the offseason in Las Vegas and was very physical with the security guard. He did get suspended for that, but still, you really question some of his ethic in that regard. I also seen, despite leading the league in 2 out of his 3 years in the NFL, which is very impressive, and you could argue that if he was suspended in the second year of his career, he probably would have won that rushing title as well. But still, he has to work his way into shape all of these years. So him being away from the team doing football drills, you worry about his stamina and his shape when he comes in onto the field. And even if he's not playing in the preseason games, you don't get conditioning like training in a training camp, wearing the pads and doing that. And I'm sure he's doing that in Mexico. He's not unwise in that regard. So that's the only thing you kind of worry about. But look, he could show up the week of the first regular season game, get a few practices in, and he'll participate. So he'll be okay. You got to take care of Prescott. He's in the final year of his deal. You look at the numbers, he's going to be paid, and every other day we record our show, or every other episode, there's a new contract. Wentz was a big guy at first. Then Russell Wilson did his deal. Now you look at all these guys down in line. Tom Brady signed his deal. Now his is not in the top 5 as far as salary goes. I think per year he's around 6 or 7. But point is, just sign him for the $30 million. That's the going rate. That's what you have to do. And they're going to do that. I just think that the Cowboys and the Jones family, Jerry the owner, Steven the general manager, the son, I think they're just trying to play some hardball and play a little tough. Now, Prescott's showing up to practice and doing everything he has to do because quarterbacks don't hold out. That's just the way it works out. Now, he may not play. He probably wouldn't play that much in the preseason anyway, but you might see even less action from him with as far as that goes. Once you take care of him, then if you want to give Cooper a deal, that's fine. But the thing about Cooper is that you're looking at the landscape. Michael Thomas, he signed his big deal with the New Orleans Saints. Julio Jones is due for a reworking / extension of his deal. So I think Cowboys are maybe waiting out what the Saints already did their deal, but they're kind of waiting to see what the Falcons do, I think, with Julio Jones, which will probably come down the line within the next week or so. So you'll take care of Cooper. Once you take care of Cooper and Prescott, you go to Elliott, and you're like, look, you have 2 years left on your deal. We can readdress this next year. And I know Elliott's talking about, I guess he sold Josina Anderson. I'm not doubting Josina's sources or her as a source, but Elliott's saying that he will not come back to the team or play in the regular season unless there's a new contract. He may be saying that now, but let's wait until the end of this month. Or if he misses one game, that one game paycheck, because guys do not get paid during the preseason. They start making their money during the regular season. He may have that stance right now, but finances are finances, and I don't want to look in his pockets. I don't know his lifestyle and all that, but anyone you miss a paycheck, I don't care if you're a millionaire or if you're making minimum wage. If you miss a paycheck, you feel it. So he is going to find his way back on the field. I think the Cowboys realize that. They may move some money around to say it's a new deal in that regard, but I don't think he's going to break the bank at all with Dallas. We looked at some of the recent signings on the running back position, Todd Gurley, Devonta Freeman here in Atlanta within the past 2-3 years, and those have not worked out as far as, production's good, but it's a position that the injury risk is very high. Production can drop off very quickly. So I think the Cowboys realize that and are going to force their hand. And if they really want to play hardball, you can do what the Steelers did with Le'Veon Bell. If Elliott plays out the final 2 years of his deal, you can franchise him twice. So you get 4 years of service with Ezekiel Elliott under these current terms. Now, Bell, with the Steelers, he was franchised once, and he played, and then he got franchised again and sat out the entire regular season, or entire season for the Steelers. That made him an unrestricted free agent. He signed with the Jets for a long-term contract. So they could play hardball with Elliott if they want, but similar to Elliott, now Le'Veon Bell, he's a very good player. Someone say he's best running back in the league. He's had his issues with suspensions and could be in a situation where if he gets in trouble again, he could be suspended long term by the NFL. Elliott is kind of in that same boat. They're not in the same boat as far as their transgressions, but Elliott is on the radar of the NFL. Do you trust him with a long-term deal? He does a transgression, and the league suspends him for 6 games, 8 games, or even worse, an entire year. You never know with them. So I think that's what you're seeing from the Cowboys, that I think PR-wise, they're playing it well. They're just saying – no, I should say they're playing it well. What they're doing is they're being very slick. And they're being slick with all of their guys. They're coming out with – and Stephen Jones, who for a guy that everyone wants to kind of say is different than Jerry Jones as far as negotiations and being tactful and being less transparent, he's kind of taking that the father, being very open, saying we have very fair deals, and they're leaking it to their media sources or their media outlets, their people in their circle. And now we stated with basketball and the free agency, how everyone's rushing to break news and to get the scoop on a story. No, it doesn't work like that. All of these executives, all of these coaches and owners have their certain people in the NFL, whether it's Josina Anderson, Adam Schefter, Chris Mortensen, Jay Glazer. You go down the line, they have their guys that they can leak information to. And I'm not questioning those media journalists and their jobs. They do a very good job of presenting information, gathering it together. But it's very rare where you find a situation that this journalist that covers a team, or whether on a beat level or a national level, has a story that they scoop the entire league out of, or the rest of their journalists like, wow, that rarely happens. So Stephen Jones, and Jerry Jones for that matter, now they're different in a way because they'll actually talk to the media and tell this stuff, but they also have their story. They'll kind of leak things as well, and that's when you saw with the report that they are each given top 5 contracts in their respective positions. Very slick by them. So now as a fan or supporter of the team, or even if you're looking at it objectively, you're going to say, wow, these guys are getting top 5 money. They're going to be multimillionaires by tenfold. And I'm, as a fan, am barely able to pay my bills, or I'm struggling, or I'm doing well but not as well as those guys getting to play a kid's game in football. So now the fans like, man, come to camp, sign that contract. It's a longer game than that, and all 3 of those guys have played above market value relative to their salaries, and they know that. So in the end, what you're going to see is I think 2 out of the 3 guys get signed, and Dak gets signed without question. I think Cooper gets a deal that's pretty solid. Elliott, he might have to miss a regular season game, but he'll be back. He's not going to miss an entire season. That's not the way it's going to work, especially with 2 years left on his deal. It's very different than the situation with Le'Veon Bell, because what Bell realized is that they can't franchise me again, they won't franchise me again. And in essence, I sit out this year. Granted, I don't get paid, which is rough, but I will be a free agent when the year ends, not restricted, a complete free agent. I can name my price and sign with somebody else. If Elliott sits out this year, he still has another year under contract with the team. So is he going to sit out 2 years? Absolutely not. His leverage is very minimal. So he's holding out. He's doing what he has to do. I'm not knocking his holdout. But I think in the end, by the time we do our show and our NFL preview, later in, whether it's late August or early September, he'll be with the Cowboys in camp and practicing, getting ready for the regular season. But I understand why it's getting so much news and attention, because it's a really slow time in the sports world. All of our soccer is, I follow the English Premier League, and that's very exciting. But in America, not so much. There are fans, and I follow it. I'm an Arsenal supporter, and don't get me started on their interesting transactions in the summer. But that season starts up. MLS is in full swing, and we do a lot of MLS coverage, of course, with Atlanta United. But if you're looking at the big sports, NBA is in full off season. Outside of a Kevin Durant story here and there, or LeBron, whatever. There are no games being played, so they're in the back burner. The NFL training camp starts, yes, but they're outside the Cowboys, who are like a vacuum of news. There really isn't much NFL training camp news to come out. Major League Baseball is kind of in that odd period where All-Star break is done. They're not in the if you really want to, every game matters, but we're not in September yet, where independent races really start heating up. So they're off, and then NHL, they're in their off season as well. U.S. Open for tennis hasn't started yet. That's a few weeks away. Golf, they've done all of their majors. There's nothing else, no Ryder Cup. So what are we going to talk about? Dallas Cowboys. So that's why they're getting all the attention. But the reality is, I think it's a very simple game of negotiation, and it's not really going to be beyond. There's not going to be a late breaking news. Someone gets traded or someone sits out the entire year. That's not happening at all. All three of those guys, by game 2 of the regular season, will be playing for the Cowboys, who you would think they've won 10 Super Bowls in the past 20 years. You think they'd be the Patriots of the past 15 years under Brady and Belichick. The Cowboys have only won, I think, 2 playoff games since they won the Super Bowl in the mid-90s. And we're in 2019 talking this right now. So they've won pretty much, I think, 2 playoff games in 20 years. That's pathetic, especially for any franchise, but especially the Dallas Cowboys, who get so much attention. And it's understandable. Big fan base, America's team, all that jazz. But the Cowboys, for all of this talk and all of the attention that they get, still probably going to finish 9-7, 10-6, but they may have a top 3-4 roster in the entire NFL. So what does that say about the team and where they stand right now? I don't know. We'll figure it all out together as we head towards the start of the NFL regular season. But as far as today goes, we're concluding today's broadcast. Thank you for listening to the show. We will try to do our next show in the next few days, probably around August 11th or 12th after the weekend of action. But as always, if you want to find out everything that we're doing, head to sportsinquirer.net, premier site for news and notes in the world of sports. Head to our Twitter and Instagram under Sports Inquirer. That is all one word. On our Facebook, go to our pages, The Sports Inquirer and Sports Inquirer. And finally, subscribe to us on YouTube, SoundCloud, and iTunes under The Sports Inquirer. Until next time, good fight, good night.